So first, let me start with explaining what is spatial computing. And in order to do this, we need to go back a little bit in time. And probably you remember, or maybe not, because I see a lot of young people here, in the 1990s, a lot of people got their first personal computer at home. And so personal computing became really a thing, and a lot of people started to exchange ideas with each other once these computers became connected through the internet. And you could openly do knowledge sharing with Web 2.0 and really having a lot of open and knowledge sharing became more democratic, if you will, right? Everyone can share knowledge with each other. After personal computing, mobile computing came along, and I put up a smartphone here, a BlackBerry, but of course like Samsung, LG, and Apple and so on, they really changed the game with the first smartphones with touch input. And in fact, in certain countries today, mobile computing is the first platform they're going to start using. And with mobile computing, we don't just have very powerful computers like this in our pockets, which have a lot of computing power, but they also have sensors, like a camera, but also GPS sensors, like geopositioning. And with these sensor data, you can locate a device in your environment, and you can provide contextual information. For example, simplest application is mapping, right? You use like neighbor maps, for example. It uses the GPS, and it can show you contextual information where you are. So we come from personal computing over mobile computing now to spatial computing. And spatial computing brings even more context into computing, and this is thanks to intelligent edge devices, mainly computer vision AI. And so this computer vision allows us to use the camera data, for example, from mobile phones, like these here, whatever phone, and you can scan your surroundings, and it can recognize it, and it can provide you contextual information. Like, okay, this is a floor, this is a ceiling, there's a wall, and you can use that with more precision. And this is also called VPS, Visual Positioning System. So we can use all this sensor data and the high processing power we have in these supercomputers we have in our pockets. And the form factor really doesn't matter so much. All right, what is the metaverse? Well, you probably have heard a lot of definition, but I want to go a step back and basically also tell you we already have certain metaverse experience already here. You have Minecraft, you have Roblox, you have Fortnite. All of these large virtual gaming worlds have certain characteristics of metaverse platforms. In fact, not all. There are certain attributes which they don't have. We're going to talk about this in a few slides. But you see these large online gaming worlds, they already have, of course, very much these kind of metaverse capabilities to some degree. And of course, also South Korea is leading here pretty much with neighbors. Spatial, for example, this large avatar platform where you have these open worlds, you can collaborate with other people, so you have these key characteristics that you have a virtual world with a collaboration between each other. But let's step back for a moment. What is the metaverse? And if you ask 100 people what the metaverse is, you will get 100 different answers. I like the definition from Gartner, market research analyst company you probably heard about. They define the metaverse as a virtual shared space that is created by a convergence of virtual enhanced with the physical and digital reality, right? And I think this is really important, that it's not purely virtual, but you also get real-world elements into this, right? Because otherwise, it's just a large online game, right? What is new about it? And I also highlighted two key characteristics, which is device independence and also persistence. And these are very much important because you need to be able to experience these metaverse platforms regardless if you're using one of these virtual reality devices like the Quest Pro or a mobile phone or a desktop PC, a web, and so on. You need to be able to use any device, not just virtual reality. And the second and even more so important point is persistence. So if you see, I have like this water bottle here, and if I think about I'm in a virtual world, this is a virtual water bottle, I'm an avatar, and I put this virtual water bottle right here at the table like this. Well, I cannot put it here, but you can imagine, right? I put it here, and if I come back a week later to this virtual world, it should not be gone, it should still be here. Like persistence is very important, because like in the real world where we live in, things also don't magically disappear. Maybe sometimes, you know, you forget like where you put something, but things are persistent in the real world. So we gotta get this also in this virtual world. Persistence is a very key thing, and this will require a lot of computational storage and computation power. So this is a big challenge, of course. You might see two different understandings or two different camps when it comes to metaverse, and there's this rather narrow understanding where they're using the metaverse just as a new kind of umbrella term for AR and VR, for virtual reality and augmented reality. But that's not correct. It's better to look at it from a broader perspective, that it's the new immersive internet, right? It's a 3D internet. And if you want to have one sentence to describe and define the metaverse, simply put, the metaverse is the new immersive internet, but you can go into it with virtual reality or it come to you with augmented reality, right? That's as short as it can get. Gartner is also saying by 2026, in 4 years, a quarter of the population will spend at least 1 hour per day in a metaverse solution. And if you include these large online games, surely easily possible, right? Even more optimistic is McKinsey, consulting company you probably heard about. They're saying the metaverse is a $5 trillion opportunity by 2030. And the metaverse is simply too big to be ignored. And I always say, you know, in 2030, a company that doesn't have a presence in the metaverse will be similar to a company that doesn't have a website today, right? And sometimes if you're looking for a service, like you need a contractor worker to do like work at your house or so, you typically use a search engine, Google for it, whatever, and you find someone, right? If they don't have a website, you cannot find them. The same might apply in the future. So that's basically the bullish kind of optimistic statement where it's going. So let's talk about different flavors of the metaverse, and I showed you already some of those. But one that is particularly interesting at the moment are these virtual metaverse experiences, where you have these full virtual worlds, and you can basically have a lot of, I would also say it's a social metaverse, but also commercial and consumer related. I like this slide because here it gives you an overview of different platforms. And as you can see at the moment, it's not a single metaverse, but it's rather a multiverse, right? You have multiple platforms, multiple vendors working in the space. And as you can see here, if you look at the slide, on the top you see it says no blockchain, and the bottom it says blockchain. On the left it says no VR, and on the right it says VR. So these 4 quadrants, this is a good way how to categorize it. Of course, it's not fully complete. Surely I miss a bunch of platforms in here. But you see the course direction. And if you look closely, you see Horizon Worlds, you see VR Chat, you see Outspace, all the big vendors, the big platforms like Meta, Microsoft, they're all building centralized platforms, right? If you look at the bottom, you see all these ones that are built on the promise of the blockchain, where you can basically do asset transfer based as a blockchain transaction. So you buy a virtual asset, you buy something for your avatar, this is a transaction on the blockchain, and you have these startups that are working a lot on these decentralized platforms. And you see I put Zebeto there pretty much on the centralized platform, but they're also working on, I think it's called Zebeto X, like a decentralized platform, right? So they're entering also the decentralized market because there's definitely a lot of potential. But you see there's one big issue. We have all these different platforms and they don't work together, right? You have to decide if I'm going to VR Chat, if I'm going to Outspace, or if I'm going to Meta Horizon, and all of these provide different experiences, but there's no interop between each of those. And the logo I put up here, this is the logo of a new initiative called the Metaverse Standards Forum. It's an initiative driven by the Kronos Group, which you might have heard from things like OpenGL, OpenXR, and they're working on a lot of open standards. And now with the Metaverse Standards Forum, we're working on initiative to make an open interoperable metaverse, right? So that you can exchange asset from platform A to platform B. Very important element, because right now there's no interop, and like I said, it's a multiverse and not a single metaverse. But in the end, users want a single metaverse experience, right? And so let's hope by 2030, it doesn't matter if you go to Meta, if you go to Altspace, if you go to VRChat, you go to Spatial, in the end we have a common layer on top where we can have interop between each other. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day.